Okay, continuing. Where was I? I was Eureka, um, friends from elementary school, and so that was a fun trip up there. I didn't tell anybody I was going. I just left. I was mad and left. Um, then was there for 2 days and then came home. And then when I got home, I just didn't want to be home. So I drove to Wisconsin. Um, yeah, and that was probably stupid. Oh no, definitely stupid. I found a friend, and stayed with friends, and went and saw, swung by the school, and went to prom for some reason, and was told, nobody wants you here. Why are you here? Nobody wants you here. Oh, fine, I thought you were my friend at church, but I guess not. Um, yeah. Because then we came back, and then we had our family vacation to Italy. Yeah, 2002 was a fun year. We go off to Italy, starting new seizure medications, um, and in Rome, my feet are breaking out in rashes because I'm allergic to the Lamictal. And so walking through the Vatican, my feet feeling like they were on fire. And with a tour group, no less. So, I couldn't just get aside and deal with things. I had to stay with the tour group. and and then when we got to Venice, Venice was fun. Until my sister decided to have a temper tantrum and decided that she wanted to be alone. For a 16-year-old, very skinny, short girl to be storming off in Venice, not a good idea. So, of course, had to follow to keep track of her, keep her safe, be a brother. Um, it was summer, July in Venice. Hot, humid, having to walk quickly with heart problems, physical exertion and heat and stress causing these seizure-like convulsions. And we got to see some beautiful, out-of-the-way parts of Venice. And you see the laundry lines up and the old ladies and washing their clothes by hand in a bucket, a big barrel, it was incredible. And if it wasn't having to chase my sister around town, around a foreign country. And finally, after a while, I was like, okay, I can't take anymore. Get me, stop! And I just collapsed. Just to get her to stop. And she ran into some open house and said, my brother, help my brother. And some Italian guys came out and they're like, oh no. Not quite like that, but, they're Italian, so, I don't know. They called whatever their emergency line was, and I got to ride on an ambulance boat with some lady that had had a stroke or heart attack or something. Ambulance boat was pretty cool, I have to say. So we got to the hospital, because we were foreigners, we had to go to the socialist hospital, or the social, the free hospital. Um, so so I understand the problems of socialized Medicare, or medical care, and there were no one there was no one in the hospital who spoke English. No one. They found one nurse who spoke French. And my sister and I used the little bit of French that we knew to talk to her, and she translated to Italian and then back. It was quite an event trying to explain a seizure disorder without knowing the words, and trying to explain medications was a great challenge, especially because I didn't have the medication bottle on me. That would have made things a little bit easier. Huh. So whatever they ended up giving me made me really, really sick, and I ended up vomiting in the waiting room on the tile floor of the waiting room. And then they pulled me into a room with, hooked me up to an IV in a glass jar. and I felt like I was in the 40s, 40s or 50s, or maybe 30s, I don't know, 1800s. I don't know. But it was scary. And then my sister somehow managed to navigate out of the hospital, across the lake, and then to the hotel on the other side of Venice, and find our parents, and then get back to the hospital, where when my parents and sister got back 4 hours later, the vomit was still on the floor of the waiting room. So my parents promptly pulled me out. My dad was stationed in Italy in the early 70s in the Air Force, in Brindisi, so he knew Italian very well and was able to talk to them, which is why we went to Italy to begin with, was because he was stationed there. And yeah, so that was miserable. And then I was sick for the next several days, and don't remember the next 3 days at all. And just little bits and pieces of vomiting in the back of the tour bus. Yeah, and taking a ferries on the tour bus was miserable because I was sick, and then seasick on top of being sick. Yeah, it was fun. It was Italy. And we came back, and it was good times. I had a beautiful girl in Italy. Yeah. Beautiful voice. Beautiful voice. Daughter of a friend of the family that my dad stayed with when he was stationed there. It was good it was an enjoyable email relationship for a while. Until, being in college here in America, I meet a girl here. Long distance, 8,000-mile long distance relationship. Probably not gonna last. Not work out. Oh well. At least when you don't have money. So at school, I struggling through classes and struggling with the health and struggling to get teachers to allow me to stay in classes. When I ended up collapsing in the middle of a class and going to convulsions and scaring the crap out of the teachers. They generally decided that they didn't want me in class. So I ended up joining the student government and fighting to stay in class. Also joined the student government to initiate the smoking policies, the limited smoking policy. So our campus was one of the first to set up designated smoking zones, and I worked with the statewide student government to set up the policy for all California community colleges to have designated smoking zones. So you can only smoke in those areas. I think that's a pretty good accomplishment. Good legacy to leave, you know. No, because there's people who would, like me, who I walk past somebody who has been smoking, and my throat closes up and I pass out, I collapse. And I don't even have asthma. So I can imagine people who have asthma being even worse. So. Then there was life. Things continued. I kept trying, you know. Started working at Taco Bell when I got back from Italy. Worked there for a year or so, and a couple times had to work 2 registers at the same time because there were so many people in line. Yeah. And then, of course, it ended up, after doing that, collapsing into seizures. And so ended up where we had to decide that it was best that I was not working there. So I went and got a job at Vaughn's at a grocery store. Because my second job in Wisconsin just before we left, the summer of 2000, was at the grocery store. Excuse me. Excuse me. So I was working at a grocery store, or working part-time. It was right after the union strike, the union labor strike ended. I wasn't a scab worker or anything like that. However, I kind of wanted to protest the union because it was 10 hours a month of work to pay for the union dues, and I wasn't going to get any benefits until I'd been working there for over a year. Which that seemed kind of ridiculous to me. So I didn't want to pay the union dues, and plus I was working 15 to 20 hours a week, despite being scheduled for 30. And I'd end up collapsing and going into seizures while working, and then I started looking for another job that might be a little bit easier. Cutco, those cutlery things, salespeople. I know. Sorry, I shouldn't talk bad about those people. I admire those people who take a job like that, because that's a tough job. That's a job that is a sales, door-to-door sales job, or any sort of sales type job or something like that. It takes a lot of courage to do that, because you get a lot of doors slammed in your face, or just a lot of doing nothing. But anyways, so I was applying for that job, and the interview was taking way longer than I was expecting it to, and I ended up missing my shift at work at Vaughn's, and so I got fired. Right? I thought I was fired at least, but evidently I wasn't. But since I thought I was, I ended up not going back in, and then therefore, whatever. I was having too many seizures to be working there anyways. And as summer was rolling on, it was getting hot, and the heat was causing problems. Um, so then, and I didn't get the Cutco job. I quit that because it was they really have to buy the stuff up front, all the knives up front, and that was really expensive. I was like, no. Um, so then I started working at a church. My mom was working at the church that we were attending in the office. She was the office manager. So she got me a job as an office assistant. Um, so it was pretty good. It was pretty cool working with my mom part-time, 4 hours a day, 3 days a week. I worked there for a year. Was struggling to do things, the day-to-day tasks, and needed constant reminding of what I was supposed to be doing. And the only reason I was able to keep that job as long as I did was because my mom was the boss, or my supervisor, and she stated that. She said, yeah. But after a year, the pastor said, I'm not comfortable with you having this many seizures in the office when people might come in and see you laying on the floor or sitting up against the wall that exhausted. So I strongly suggest you find alternate work that doesn't cause you to have this many seizures. He said it a little bit nicer than that, I guess, but just a little bit. And so I was like, okay, fine, I guess I'm done working. Because working 4 hours, or attempting to work 4 hours a day, 3 days a week, many of which I wasn't able to do. Even I sometimes either end up having to go home halfway through, or right as I arrive at work, or even before getting out the door. I'd end up collapsing into seizures, and I had to walk to work because the doctors who didn't understand my condition took away my driver's license. Yeah, I don't lose consciousness anymore except for the first one. Well, I guess a couple have kind of fainted, passed out, faded out. But then as soon as someone touches me, I snap back into place. And then a little momentarily confused, but able to catch everything again. Which is confused all the doctors, confused UCLA in 2003. And yeah. I'm just confusing. I don't know what's wrong with me because it's the EEGs show up with just they get the EEG chart gets washed out with muscle movement artifacts, and so they can't see the underlying brain activity that's causing it. Or at least originally 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago, and I haven't been able to get an EEG in like 6 years. And I've definitely gotten worse since then. I know I'm a lot worse. Maybe 5 years. And I haven't gotten another EKG, the cardio thing, the heart, since 2002. So I don't know. And it's been because I've been going through this for so long, the doctors won't listen. Or at least they won't do anything more. They won't try something to try to figure out what's wrong because well, if they haven't figured it out yet, then they probably won't be able to figure out what it is. Not considering that maybe they haven't figured out because they haven't tried or they haven't listened. Um, had, yeah. So in 2006, in March of 2006, I applied for disability because I figured, well, if I can't work 4 hours a day, 3 days a week in a church office with my mom, having fun, having a good time, laughing. I get along really well with my mom. Um, and then what else can I do? And, you know, that was about the easiest job I could have found. And, and I couldn't do it. So I figured I should get approved for disability. Got an advocate, and he's like, "Yeah, we should be able to get you approved. You've got these convulsions. You've been let go from all these other jobs because of your seizures, these problems that you're having. So yeah, we should be able to get you approved. In addition to the ADD and anxiety and depression, and yeah." So I figured, sure shot, or at least take a year, maybe two, not 8 years that I've been now fighting disability. I had to start over. I went through the full run through to the hearing, and the job specialist, the employment specialist that they had in the hearing, stated that no one would employ me with my limitations and need for taking a break every so often, or the number of hours or unreliability in hours that I'd be able to work, or the liability issues, safety issues that my convulsions were whatever the word is, presenting. And so I figured, okay, I'll get approved now. Nope, still got denied. They asked if we wanted to, he asked my advocate if we wanted to have a second hearing, and the advocate said, no, I don't think we'll need it. We're pretty confident. And I was like, okay. And I just got denied. So I had to start over. I tried to file the appeal, but because they didn't communicate things to me properly in a timely fashion, and I wasn't able to get out to get the stuff done or to write the appeal letter from the hearing, and I wasn't able to get my parents to help with that, or able to get doctors to sign off the diagnosis. Yeah, I don't have a diagnosis. That's my problem. Because I don't have a diagnosis, I can't get disability. I can't get any sort of assistance. I don't qualify because the doctors have said, we don't know what's wrong. And they won't write down that, yes, there is something majorly wrong that is preventing him from working. They won't do that, even though I've been unable to work. And in the last 8 years, I've attempted, tried to work at Office Max. I worked there for a month, scheduled full time. I ended up working about 15 to 25 hours in a week. I didn't get, in the month that I was there, I didn't get a full weekend. I rarely got a full shift in. And so we're like, well, we love having you work here, Dan, but man, you got to take care of yourself. This just isn't good for you. So and I left the job. Figured, okay, great, that should be another check in my favor for getting disability. Nope. So, oh yeah, but before that, I tried working at Rite Aid. I was working there for 2 weeks, but I wasn't able to do the tasks of the job due to my allergy to the cigarettes. The handling the cartons, the cigarette cartons, made my fingers feel like they were on fire. Don't know why, but that's what it did. And plus, the union dues were ridiculous, and they weren't even, and I wasn't going to get any benefits for a year, and they weren't even going to put me in the photo lab. Which, yeah, after going through school, college, trying to do, I slept through algebra and got a B. I literally slept through it, got a B. Looked up every once in a while, looked at the board. There's the answer to that, there's that, there's that, there's that, there's that, and there's that, and there's that. Okay, there's that. Okay, good night. And just go back to sleep. Because I did it all in my head, could do it all in my head. And plus he wasn't grading homework, so he wasn't collecting homework or anything. The homework was for the purpose of figuring out how to do the problems. And well, since I could do all the problems in my head, why bother doing the homework? Until realizing that I have to show work still, and getting into pre-calculus with, you can't really do things in your head as much. And so realized that physics was probably the wrong major. Yeah. So then I changed to photography, or to cinematography, and then to photography, because I decided I didn't like working with people. I had social anxiety due to the way I was treated in junior high and things like that, and just being awkward, not understanding social norms and how to interact properly with my peers. And yeah, where was I? I don't know. Rambling. Doctors confused, not getting jobs, not having diagnosis, getting denied disability, getting worse, having to start over, completely start over for disability, and having to been on my own and trying to explain to them that what I'm going through is debilitating and painful and prevents me from often getting out of the house, or being able to focus on something, working from within the home, and tried to do a blog or a website and YouTube, and not able to be consistent or do physically or psychologically. I sit down to go do it, to do the thing, do whatever it is, and it just doesn't go most of the time. For whatever reason, the thought processes don't function, or the body starts spasming, or I can't think, and I can't get anyone to understand that, or haven't been able to get doctors to understand that, or my parents to understand that, or extended family to understand that. Yeah, I suffered from depression, thoughts of suicide, and nearly doing so, but always had hope that maybe someday things would get better. There's been some ups and downs, roller coasters, twists and turns, corkscrews and flips, and, you know, but I keep going. I kind of don't want to, but I'm not going to end it. Definitely not. I don't want. I don't want to kill myself, but I don't want to live. I'd welcome death if it came, I guess. But I want to live first. Like, I want to get a boat and sail or cruise around the world as much as I can. And if I happen to die at sea, then great. Then I'll die happy. Um, because I'm kind of at that point. About the only thing I can do is sit by myself and quiet, and even that I can't really. I don't like. This is. I've been meaning to do this, what I'm doing right now. We're trying to do this for months and months, and just not able to go through the motions of setting up the camera, the cell phone with the camera, or having the energy to think clearly enough to talk or figure out how to talk to the camera. I had tried writing something, but in trying to record that, it just wasn't working, causing too much stress to just read something. So I decided to just start over and just talk for an hour, which I guess is what I've been doing, or maybe longer than that. But maybe hopefully disability will listen to this, or a doctor will listen to this, psychologist, and you get a psychologist, a neurologist, a cardiologist, orthopedics. So I've got scoliosis to forward head posture, which could be pulling on my nerves, on my spinal column cord, and which could cause the short, which could be causing my convulsions. But can I get anyone to look at that? No. Because I've been going through this for so long, they won't look at me. They won't do another MRI or a CAT scan or more EEGs, EKGs, or an EMG, which is doing a muscular, monitoring the muscle movement, electrical charges to the muscles. Yeah. I was hoping with Obamacare it might be a little bit easier, but it's seeming to still have problems because we can't figure out how to make health care a right for people. It still has to be a privilege, and the privilege of those who are able to afford insurance or able to with expanded Medicare stuff, but if I can't, because I don't have any income, I don't make enough money, I can't potentially buy regular insurance from a company. I have to have Medi-Cal, and the Medi-Cal, I can't go to a normal doctor. What's the point then? And start going to the community health centers, and they're constantly changing doctors, and their doctors are, well, at least here, incompetent, at least in regards to me, refusing to consider that I might not be able to work or anything. back is spasming. Yeah, I'm tired. I have chronic fatigue syndrome as well. Self-diagnosed. Everything is self-diagnosed. Um, for most of my life, I've barely gotten more than 4 hours of sleep a night. It's always been broken up sleep, very interrupted. Wake up early in the middle of the night often. It takes up forever to fall asleep. Um, for the last couple of years, it's been a miracle if I've slept past 5. And throughout my entire life, I could probably count the number of times I've set an alarm clock because I've always woken up before an alarm clock would need to go off anyways. So there was never any point. So I'm always tired, which is probably another thing that's causing the convulsions, the spasms and stuff. And I noticed what is it? Comparison or correlation, correlation, yeah, a correlation between lack of sleep and increased amounts of convulsions. And with last couple of years, getting very, very little sleep and being extremely stressed out over the disability denials, it's just poison. It is poison in my brain, and I'm going out of my mind because of it. I used to be a very nice, happy person, at least tried to be. Tried not to get angry. But lately, I'm understanding the psychological processes of why someone goes on a shooting rampage. I'm not going to. Because no. It's a horrible thing. I think guns are wrong. And I accept hunting. I accept a hunting gun or a gun for protection if you live on that kind of a property or that, I guess, that kind of neighborhood. Or have had problems, but in general, I do not agree with guns. Honestly, I think it's a coward's weapon, and let's fight with swords or fists. That's how you fight. That's a battle. Gun is. Yeah, you got to be able to aim properly. You got to be able to hold it from the kickback, and it takes skill to be able to see that and to get an accurate shot. But you're still doing it at a distance, at great distances. And for that matter, I would kind of have trouble with a bow and arrow too, or a crossbow, or siege weapons. But, it is what we are. Stomach. I gotta take a break.